Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology and the Salesology prospecting method, and I'm known as the queen of cold calling. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Lori Richardson. She is the founder and CEO of Score More Sales. She is the president of Women Sales Pros. And Lori's a sales strategist. She helps leaders at mid-sized companies hire better sellers and evaluate the true potential of their existing sales team. How important is that? And also, in 2015, she started Women Sales Pros, which is a community to inspire more women into sales and sales leadership. She's the author of She Sells, and she is the host of the award-winning podcast, Conversations with Women in Sales. So welcome, Lori. I'm so happy that you could be here today.
Thank you, Wendy. It is always a pleasure when I get to speak with you.
Oh, thank you. We have a mutual admiration society happening here.
We do.
Yes. So today we're going to talk a little bit about prospecting because I know you work with sales leaders. And one of the things that I hear all the time, from clients is like, how do I get them to prospect? How do I get them to pick up the phone and talk to people that they don't know? How do I get them to build their pipeline? So what are you seeing?
Yeah, it's interesting because, in a world where there's a contingency of people who say, don't pick up the phone, nobody ever answers it, people do answer the phone. It has changed over time. I'm sure you would agree. And you still need to know how to reach people where they're, most apt to be and where they're most able to be. And by using a multifaceted strategy, which includes calling people, you're more likely to reach your targets, to reach people that you want to talk to. So from a leader standpoint, I think the first thing is that you need to be an inspiring leader. So it would really help if you had a background in doing this yourself. But that isn't always the case, I know. The next best thing is just to be really, inspirational and you can't make someone do something, but you can set expectations, right? When someone's coming in to do a role, you let them know this is part of what it entails. There are, 5 or 10 different things you're going to be doing. One of them is, working to reach people where they're at. Sometimes that requires phone calls. And we do that here. So that's part of what we expect you to do. If they're already there and it's people that have been, sitting around not making calls forever, I would say that's a difficult proposition. You might agree or not agree. I'm not sure. But at that point, then I'm doing more gamification. I'm gonna hold I'm gonna have people block out their time, and we're gonna do call blitzes, and we're gonna do other things that gets everybody going and acknowledges people for their efforts and their successes, and really talk that up.
Okay. So I'm curious about this idea of inspiring, because that's very conceptual.
Yeah.
So how does someone, if someone that manages salespeople, how do they do that? Are there some concrete things that they can do?
Yeah, absolutely. You start the day every day on a high note, on a positive note. Now, in this particular time when we're recording this, there are some things going on in the economy, possible recession. People are changing jobs. It's easy for a leader to feel down sometimes. And you just can't bring that to your team. You're the buffer for your salespeople. And so you need to be upbeat and do something specific. And, one idea is posting a quote, something that is more um, positive to negative, I think, and just not buy into the negative that the team people will bring up, like, oh, we can't reach anybody. Oh, it's summer. No one's gonna, answer the phone. It's hard to reach people. They're on vacation. They're this or that. There's so many excuses and reasons that people will come up with. And a good leader is going to say, you know what? People are on vacation all year round, and we're going to make calls and reach those people that are not on vacation. And we're going to help them with the idea of what our product and service is and how it could help them, whether if they don't need it right now, we're going to help plant the seed and develop that over time.
I love that this idea of being positive, because I can't tell you how many managers, leaders that I've spoken with over the years that will say to me, well, prospecting is a necessary evil.
Yeah.
And if that's where you start,
yeah,
it's just downhill from there.
Yeah.
You're the leader.
Or the prospect is an enemy. We're at war with like,
buyers are liars.
Yeah.
Like, okay, where do you go from there?
That's right. I totally agree. And, I've come to call them supportive beliefs, because I think positivity has some baggage, as does negativity. But if I say, what's a supportive belief that could help us this week? It's Monday. What can we do this week that will support us to our goals, as opposed to being unsupportive and pushing ourselves down rather than bringing us up? We need to do it ourselves. If we don't have others to do it for us, we do it ourselves.
Yeah. And so I probably should have asked you first, so I'm going out of order. But how did you get into this field, and how did you come by this philosophy of this idea that you need to be positive if you're going to lead? How did that come about?
I think by nature, my father was a real optimist, and he never had a bad day, even on his last day. I was with him that day, and every day was a gift. And I believe that as well. I've had a few close calls in my life, some brushes with some real negative things. And I feel that if I can give back, and giving back includes giving to our buyers who we can help with our solutions. If you don't feel like your solution will help a buyer, will help their company, then you're selling the wrong thing, first of all. And if you truly believe that, and you've seen that what your product or service does will help other people, then it's really upon you to reach out, make that extra call today, and try one more time, and try a different route if that wasn't successful, because you can help them. And until you know for a fact that you can't help them because you've had a conversation and you come to realize, you know what, maybe their approach is a little different, this isn't going to work, then you move on. But until then, it's upon you till you find that out. So, I started in sales after being a teacher. I was a preschool teacher. I became a single mom, and I couldn't afford to support my family. So I thought, I grew up in a family-run business where I learned how to sell. And I thought maybe I can sell some technology, because technology was getting really big in the 80s when I started selling, way back when. And I walked into an open opportunity that was just huge. And it was, whoever was ready to work in it, we all benefited very well. And it really planted the seeds for me to stay in sales for over 15 years.
Okay. So I'm curious, what changes have you seen? I mean, we've all been through, as we're recording this, summer of 2022, we've been through 2 years of COVID, what
Yeah.
changes have you seen in navigating the prospecting space before and after?
Yeah, the biggest thing, I loved the fact that COVID forced people to work remotely and companies had to, I wasn't happy that everybody had to scramble, of course, and the tragic side of COVID was not good, but the innovative part where people really can work remotely and sell, and people had, we were able to track their progress and see that in many cases people were more productive and they didn't have an hour or two commute anymore. And that, I mean, that's just revolutionized business. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that all shakes out, with almost like a split between companies that are 100% virtual from now on to those that require people to come in a certain percentage of the time. And I'm really interested to see how that, that does affect calling, because I would definitely say I benefited from being around other people and hearing what other people were saying, and hearing how someone rebounded when somebody, hung up on them or wasn't very nice or what have you. And yet there are ways that you can be creative and do that virtually too. So I love innovation, and so I love seeing that part of this, over the last couple of years, and how things will change in the future. That's probably the biggest thing. But, the other thing is that people are less likely to pick up the phone than they were 5 years ago. So then you have to be, crafty, and you have to figure out, how am I going to reach them? What's the best way? And sometimes it might take the call not being the first thing that you do. Other times it is. So it just depends.
Yeah, well, I mean, what we teach is a series of steps, not all of which are calls. And I would imagine that you
Exactly.
recommend the same thing. There are a myriad of ways that one can reach out to a prospect. The phone is definitely an important component of that,
Yeah.
but there are other tools as well.
Yeah. Ultimately, the phone is the quickest way to convey tone and intent and message over anything. And so if you can move your conversation from LinkedIn or email or text or whatever it is to an actual call, that's a great thing. And that you'll have more potential and more possibilities in that way. So yeah, I totally agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we're going to, I actually want to talk to you a little bit about some success stories, kind of before and after, some things you've seen with clients, uh, leaders that became, let's say, more inspirational, and what change came about. Um, some of the things that you're seeing that is working today to get sales teams uh, up and running and more productive, faster, easily, and more profitably. Before we do that, however, we're going to take a pause and for a word from our sponsor, which is Salesology 3X Appointments. You know how frustrating and stressful it is when you leave every sales meeting wondering if your sales team knows how to sell, because they're not selling and all you ever hear from them are excuses. They blame your marketing. They say you need to do more social media. They say you need a new website. And you know something is wrong, but you don't quite know what it is. And you're even starting to wonder if it's you. You don't have a lot of options. You could fire them all and start from scratch. That would be expensive. And you're sick of waking up in the middle of the night wondering how to fix this. Imagine instead that you have an easy to use, replicable system that ensures that your team can easily schedule qualified appointments. And imagine that your team is excited and motivated. No more excuses. And you feel good. Salesology 3X Appointments can make that happen. If you're a business owner or a sales manager with an underperforming sales team, let's talk. Click on the link to my calendar in the show notes, schedule a time, and I look forward to meeting you. So we are back with Lori Richardson, founder and CEO of Score More Sales, and president of Women's Sales Pros. So let's continue on with this idea of inspiring salespeople to take effective action. And I'm wondering if you can share some of the ways you've been able to work with sales leaders to help them make that happen.
Wendy, I think one of the most important things that I've done with leaders is help them get a process in place, because salespeople, we're all human, and we really thrive on process. We thrive on order. And even though it may not seem like it, it's true. So I first want people to have specific times to call. And again, I'm not sure what you advocate, but what I've found works really well is having specific blocks of times where people honor those times. They don't cancel, they don't change it for other things. And also having that kind of a blitz time. You call it what you want, but it's when everybody's working at the same time and we're kind of cheering everybody on. Some people do prizes, some people do other things. I just like the fact that at the end of that call block, maybe it's once a week, maybe it's 3 times a week, but we have something to show for it. We have people to, put on a pedestal and cheer them on and talk them up. And that's important too, because we all need to be inspired. We all need to be coached. We need that support no matter how senior a salesperson is. I believe that with all my heart.
Yeah, I used to have a client that would have a blitz day, and whenever somebody either made an appointment or closed a sale, they'd ring a bell.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that work in a lot of instances. Have you also seen this to work when everybody is working remotely?
Yeah, absolutely. Because people check in at regular intervals. So in one case, I was working with a leader who wasn't too inspirational, I would say, no names, of course. And just by putting some process in place, like we're having this time block and everybody's going to call on, Tuesday mornings or whatever it was that we set up. And then we're going to meet before that. We're going to meet in the middle, and we're going to meet at the end and share what happened. And just by doing once a week for the group calling, now people still were responsible to make calls on their own. That gave them an uplift of like 50% in terms of their meetings that they scheduled. And the leader became more confident because they saw that things were happening and that they actually had some input into the results. And I think it inspired everybody. And so they continue that on for quite some time. I mean, they may still be doing it as far as I know.
Well, one of the things that just completely drives me crazy is this notion of the born salesperson, that somehow there are these people out there, they're just born knowing what to do and what to say, and they're just going to do it. So you're the sales leader, but you don't have to do anything because they're a born salesperson.
Yeah, and that's just not right. There are a few, there are people born that are gregarious personalities that are outgoing, but that doesn't mean you're going to do well in sales. Just like being an athlete in high school or even college, there's some very selfish athletes. I know because they have athletes in our family, and the fact is that you need to teach people and coach them on what they need to do. I think there are about 21 different core competencies to be successful in sales. And maybe we can talk about that another time. But what I just want to share is that people need to get some feedback, and they need to be developed. And if you are the kind of leader that can develop someone that can say, Wendy, that was really great. I heard you call. I love your energy and enthusiasm. I just noticed that you probably could have started sooner to get to the point rather than it seemed a little bit long. I mean, that little bit of coaching could, reduce the negative and increase wins dramatically. Just one thing, just by saying less and having more impactful words. Words are so important, right?
Words are so important. And to piggyback on what you were just saying, for anyone listening that after what Lori just had to say, still thinks that being gregarious and friendly in and of itself is enough. We have someone in our coaching program right now who has a lovely speaking voice. He's very friendly. He has a lot of energy. He will not shut up. And what he does time after time after time, and I'm sure you have seen this too, Lori, is he talks himself just right out of that prospect is waiting to say yes. And Rod just keeps talking and doesn't get the appointment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is definitely not that people still think that though. There's just so many misconceptions still about sales. That's a whole nother show as well, I think. But, I truly believe that sales is an admirable profession and that it's a helping profession. And if you are good at helping people, whether you came from teaching or you worked in a service industry, there's some really great people that may not think that they would do well in sales. And I think people should give it a try. And the worst case, you're going to learn how to sell. And that's not a bad thing.
No, that is a good thing. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. Nothing happens in the economy.
Right.
And so how do you think this concept of sales is such a negative activity? How do you think that came about? I have my thoughts, but I want to hear.
Yeah, it's from the movies. I'm convinced that it's from television and the movies, and it's just easy to put labels on things and then just push it aside because it's harder to really work something through and go, well, why is that? And kind of pull it apart. But, there aren't enough of the good movies that talk about how great someone in sales is. It's also not something you've heard about in school. You heard about being a doctor or, a teacher or a number of different things. And a lot of people, I used to think that it was all negative perception, but there are people that have no perception of B2B sales. They don't know that that's even a career. And a lot of the women that I've talked to in high school and community college, for example, just didn't even know anything about it. And they didn't have someone in their family who was entrepreneurial. So it's part of it is just educating people as well.
Yes. And we did not have a chance today to talk about women sales pros and the work that you're doing there. So put your hand over your heart and tell me you will come back so we can talk in more detail about
anytime, Wendy. It'd be my pleasure. Absolutely.
Yeah. But give us a teaser about women in sales and where people can find you and learn more about you, about Score More Sales, and also about women in sales.
Yeah. So my main, for many years, I've been listed as Score More Sales on LinkedIn. So you can definitely find me there. We have a website, scoremoresales.com, womensalespros.com, shesellsummit.com. And our goal now with Women in Sales as a teaser is just to help champion all the women in sales groups and communities so that we can stop being underrepresented at every level in selling and sales leadership. So, but Score More Sales, we help companies every day and would love to talk with people through Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram.
All right. Well, we will list all of those sites in the show notes. And tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, so the podcast is called Conversations with Women in Sales. I didn't plan to launch one, but one of our friends, Barbara Giamanco, had started one and she had done 60 episodes and suddenly in her sleep, she passed away. And I didn't want it to just go by the wayside as many things that women have created in business that often happens. So I asked her family about carrying it on, got their support, and we've been doing it ever since. So we have about 3 new episodes a month and love to have you on there, Wendy.
Anytime,
Right.
whenever you're ready.
All right.
And so we will also post the link for that podcast with the
Great.
show notes.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So I want to thank you for being here, Lori. This has been a great conversation, and I'm really excited that you're coming back, and I'm going to hold you to that. And so everyone, please check out the show notes for all of the links so that you can reach Lori, so that you can reach Score More Sales, you can reach Women Sales Pros. Make sure to listen to her podcasts. And also, thank you for listening to Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders. Please do share us on social media, tell your friends, give us good reviews. And till we meet again, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.